Unmute everyone first.
Okay.
Swaminathan sir, you can start, sir.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Sai Ram. Good morning to all. Today we have a topic on rectify, review, revision. What is rectification? What is revision? What is review? Who can do all these things is the main topic which we are going to discuss on these issues. Before taking up the subject on rectification, I will tell you who are the authorities under the Income Tax Act. If you go through the first slide, Jayalakshmi, first slide. Jayalakshmi, rather than you can just press F5 so that it will be easy for you to go with the arrow mark so that it will be easy. The income tax authorities are. Pardon, Prithvi?
Sir?
Yeah, you know, Jayalakshmi can press F5 so that it will be easy, so that the sharing will be easy for her because the board is long. CBDT, Central Board of Directors, there are plenty of authorities. So if it is in one single page itself, you can show those things.
Oh, is it? I'm just doing from iPad.
Okay. No problem. Okay. There are income tax authorities under section 116. I will just go through the lower cadre to the highest cadre. You have the income tax inspectors, then income tax officer as well as tax recovery officer will come under the same platform. Assistant commissioners and assistant directors. Whenever I talk about directors, the investigation wing takes those people, they are called as directors, and the assessment range people will be called as commissioners. Assistant commissioners, deputy commissioners, you can equivalently take that deputy directors also, joint commissioners, joint directors, commissioners, commissioner appeals and directors, then principal commissioner, principal directors, chief commissioner, which is equivalent in the investigation as director general, then principal chief commissioner, principal director general, and then the CBDT. The CBDT means there are 6 to 7 members, and then one of the member will be the chairman. So these peoples are income tax authorities under section 116 of the Income Tax Act. Let us take up the second slide, the income tax appellant process. The appeal, how the process will take up, that is the next slide. Jayalakshmi, take to the next slide. If you see an assessee files a return of income, the assessing officer may take up the matter for scrutiny, pass an assessment order. He can accept the assessment of the return of income, there is no problem. If there is going to be an addition made in the assessment order, the assessee is aggrieved by that addition, he can prefer an appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, which has to be done within 30 days from the date of receipt of the order, and Form 35 is the procedural form in which the application has to be filed. Now I will tell you once again the assessment order in which the assessee should be aggrieved. One may ask a question that, can the department may file an appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals? The answer is no, because the department is not an aggrieved person. Before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, they cannot file an appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. So only the aggrieved person on the assessment order can file an appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. What are the orders which is contemplated under 246A? It is a separate chapter. We will see it in a separate session also. Now, if the Commissioner passes an order against which there may be an aggrieved person, both the assessee as well as the department. Therefore, from there you can file an appeal before the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal within 60 days from the receipt of this order in form number 36. Here also there should be an aggrieved person. In fact, if the appeal is allowed in favor of the assessee, department is the aggrieved person. If the appeal is dismissed by the First Appellate Authority CIT appeals, then the assessee is the aggrieved person. There may be a situation where the assessment order partly may be allowed, partly it may be confirmed, in which both the assessee will also be an aggrieved person as well as the department will be an aggrieved person. As per the monetary limit, they can file the appeal before the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal within 60 days from the date of the receipt of the Commissioner's order in form number 36. Up to this only, if the person is aggrieved, they can file an appeal. From there to the High Court, the section says any order, I need not be an aggrieved person in that case. Any order passed by the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal for a substantial question of law, I can file an appeal before the Honorable High Court under section 260A of the Income Tax Act. There the High Court will be deciding only the substantial question of law which is raised, not on the facts. Till before the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal as well as before the First Appellate Authority, you can deal with the facts of the cases, but before the Honorable High Court, it is only the substantial question of law which will be admitted. Therefore, the Honorable High Court will be deciding only the substantial question of law. From there, an appeal to the Supreme Court is contemplated under section 261. There is also a days of 90 days is contemplated. This is the overall picture of the appellate process in which if a person is aggrieved by the assessment order. Next slide. Yes. Now I have prepared a chart in which who are all the aggrieved persons and what are the remedies for the assessee as well as to the department. Let us see what are the remedies to the assessee. If the assessment order is passed, the remedy to the assessee is on the left hand side, you will file rectification under section 154. Otherwise, he can file an appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals under section 246, or he can file a revision under section 264. These are the three remedies available to an assessee on the basis of an assessment order. For the department, on the left hand side, you will have the rectification under section 154. Then the department can reopen the assessment under section 147, and the commissioner can also take a revision powers under section 263. So both the remedies to the assessee as well as for the department is being contemplated here. Now we will straight away go to the next slide, the rectification of mistake. What is rectification of a mistake? Suppose if an assessing officer passes any order or an intimation or whatever it may be, the income tax authorities under 116, what we have seen in the previous slide, can rectify their mistakes if their orders are in error. This is that first section 154 subsection 1 contemplates with a view to rectify any mistake apparent from record. What is the meaning of apparent from record? Means any clerical mistakes, any arithmetical mistakes, those types of rectifications can be done by the authorities as contemplated under section 116. What they can rectify? Amend any order passed by these authorities right from the Central Board of Direct Taxes to the income tax officer or the tax recovery officer, amend any order. Sir, once you have stated that amend any order, why there is called an intimation under section 143(1), 200A? Intimations are not orders as per the Act. Therefore, they said that any intimation made under section 143(1)(a), any intimation is made under section 200(a), or any intimation under section 206 CB. I'll just explain here what is this intimation. If an assessee files a return of income, these return of income will be processed under the central processing center, we will call the CPC center, which is in Bangalore, which is for all over India. This is the center wherein the processing will be taken up, in which the return will be accepted straight away. If there is going to be any clerical mistakes or any other thing, there is a difference between the tax deducted and the tax collected or whatever it may be, they will give an intimation under section 143(1)(a), either accepting it or they will say that we raise a demand to this extent. So these types of intimations can be rectified by the assessing officers. Therefore, there is a difference between order and intimation. I think someone's mic is on. Anyway, next we will go to subsection 1A. Where any matter has been considered and decided in any proceedings by way of appeal or revision relating to an order referred to in subsection 1. Other than this, it can be rectified. Sir, if the assessing officer passes an assessment order and the assessee has preferred an appeal before the first appellate authority, or there is any revision which is being done by the Commissioner of Income Tax, can such order can be rectified under section 154? The answer is no, because the higher authorities have already considered these issues and decided in appeal. Therefore, those orders cannot be rectified under section 154. That's why they say that if anything is considered and decided in any proceedings by way of an appeal or revision. So therefore, appeal provision is different, revision provision is different. Therefore, there is a word called or. So in that cases, if the commissioners or the Commissioner of Appeals have decided those things, those orders cannot be rectified under section 154. Then we will go to subsection 2 of the 154. The section says that who can amend it? It can be on his own motion by the assessing authority, or it can be amended by the assessee by way of an application. So subject to the provision of this section, the authority concerned amend on its own, that is the assessing officer who passed the order, or shall make such amendment if it is brought to its notice by the assessee. So it can be done by the assessing officer authority by his own motion, or if the assessee brings that into the notice to the assessing authority, then and 154 will be rectified. Then subsection 3 says that a reasonable opportunity should be given to the assessee to rectify those orders. That is what the section contemplates under section 3 of the Income Tax Act. An amendment which has the effect of enhancing or reducing a refund, otherwise they have to give an opportunity to the assessee, because straight away the income tax authority cannot make an rectification either to increase the liability or to reduce the liability. Therefore, a reasonable opportunity should be given to the assessee. Then comes subsection 4 in the next slide. Next slide now. The order should be passed in writing by the income tax authority. Then subsection 5. Suppose if there is going to be a reduction in the liability, the authority after passing the 154 order has to issue refund orders. Subsection 6 contemplates that if there is going to be an enhancement in the order, he should give an opportunity and raise a demand specified under section 156 of the Income Tax Act. Sir, what is this 5 and 6? For an example, that if an assessee earned a receipt of rupees 100, he claims an expenditure of rupees 50. The profit is 50 rupees. He would file the return of income for this 50 rupees. The assessing officer will accept that. At the time of passing the assessment order, if the assessing officer finds out on the expenditure of 50 rupees you have claimed, sir, at 10 rupees, you have stated that you have paid a salary to some one person. We have verified that there is no such a person. You have also not given any details. Therefore, the expenditure you have claimed, I disallow it. What is allowable can be disallowed. What is claimed as a deduction can be disallowed. What an exemption claim is disallowed. There is a difference between what is disallowance and allowable. That I will explain it. So in this case, this 10 rupees is disallowed by the assessing authority. So what he will debit, income returned by the assessee is 50 rupees. Addition not explained by the assessee, 10 rupees. The total addition is 60 rupees. So the 60 rupees is called as 60.00. Now by mistake, the assessing authority for that 0.00 pice, he has understood that it is 6,000 rupees and raised a liability. Either he can rectify the mistake on his own, or I can bring it to the notice of the assessing authority. Sir, it is only 60 rupees. You should make the addition, but you have made it as total taxable income as 6,000 rupees. Therefore, please kindly rectify the mistake. In such a situation, he reduces it, the mistakes. In the first case, he reduces the liability. Therefore, if I have paid the tax for that 6,000 rupees, he will issue a refund order. Suppose in this case, if we come to the subsection 6, actually the disallowance should be done for 10 rupees. Because I have paid a salary for 10 rupees, he has to make an addition was 10 rupees. But here the assessing officer makes only addition for 5 rupees, 50 plus 5. So 55 he says, but actually he has to disallow it as 10. Now here the assessing authority may take on his own motion and say that one by mistake, by typing that we have mentioned that disallowance is only 5 rupees. Actually I should have done it for 10 rupees. Therefore I make the addition of another 5 rupees, which I rectify it. Therefore, your liability to pay the amount for the extent of rupees 5 rupees is increased. Therefore, the notice of demand under section 156 will be given separately to the assessee. This is what the difference between subsection 5 and subsection 6 of the 154. Next slide. What is the time limit for passing the rectification order? The time states that it is 4 years from the end of the financial year. Sir, what is this financial year? What is this assessment year? I will just repeat it for all the people. For example, 1/4/2019 to 31st March 2020, which ended up now, if we take this is the financial year, we pay the tax in the next year, that is the assessment year 2021. So 1/4/2019 to 31st March 2020 is the financial year, that is the previous year. The assessment year is called 2021. This is called the difference between, you can go through section 3 of the Income Tax Act. It defines about what is previous year and what is the assessment years. So from the end of the financial year, suppose if the order is passed, the assessment order is passed on 31st December 2019. What is the end of the financial year? 31st March 2020. So from that date, 4 years is time limit. That is before 31st March 2024, the assessing officer has to rectify his mistake within that stipulated period of time. Then subsection 8 contemplates that without prejudice to the provision of subsection 7, the authority shall pass order within 6 months from the date of receipt of application, amending or refusing. Sir, here you say that 6 months, there you say that 4 years. Which is correct? I will explain you that. if I make an application by the assessee, the assessing authority has to pass an order within 6 months. Suppose if the assessing authority not passes an order within 6 months, it never says that it is deemed to have been considered or allowed. There is no such provision. A time frame is given to the assessing authority that when I receive an application under section 154 for a rectification of an assessment order, from that date, I should pass an order within 6 months. But to amend the order, the maximum time limit what is given is expiry of 4 years. Are you clear on this? Okay. This is the overall view of section 154 of the Income Tax Act. Now we have seen the assessment order rectification by the authorities and up to 116, all the authorities which are stated. Suppose if there is going to be a rectification to be done by the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, sir, how it is stated? There is a section easily rememberable. It is 254 subclass subsection 2 of the Income Tax Act says if an Income Tax Appellate Tribunal passes an order, if they want to rectify that order, they can rectify it within 6 months from the end of the month in which they have passed the order. So 154 is rectification with reference to assessing authority, CIT appeals, and the commissioners. So income tax authorities will come under 116. Therefore, rectification, what I contemplated is 154. Now the tribunal members are not income tax authorities because they are not coming under 116. If they have passed an order, how to rectify it is contemplated under section 254, subsection 2 of the Income Tax Act. Their time limit is 6 months from the end of the month in which they have passed the order. So up to tribunal, now we have found out. Suppose if the High Court has done a mistake in their own orders, what is the procedures? Everyone knows out. We will go for a being mentioned before the Honorable High Court. Your Lordship, you have done a mistake in this order. I want to rectify it. Therefore, the judge will say that then go file a miscellaneous petition, come back here, we will rectify order. Otherwise, sometimes they will post it for being mentioned before the very same court. The judge will rectify its order. That is contemplated under section 151 of the CPC Act, where the court has inherent powers to rectify their orders. These are the broad gesture 154, Tribunal 254 and 151 as per CPC. This is the broad view of rectification of mistakes. Now we will go to the chapter revision. Under the revision, what is this revision? You just remember that the assessing authority had a vision to pass an order which is rectified or revised by the higher authority, who is a commissioner of income tax, who says that your vision is not right, therefore you redo it. That is why it is called as revision. Revision is having two sections, 263, 264. 264 is with reference that if an assessee is affected of that order, if there is an order which is prejudicial to the assessee, a revision of scope is contemplated under the Income Tax Act under section 264 of the Act. Any order other than an order which section 263 applies. In the subsequent time slides, we will see what is 263. Here also, the application may be made. The commissioner himself can rectify the pass an order under section 264 or by an application by the assessee for revision. Here we will not supposed to talk about as rectification. We have to talk as revision. He can make an inquiry and it is all subject to the provision of this act. And here the main important point is that in the assessment order, which is prejudicial to the assessee, which is affected to the assessee, a revision is possible. Now something will rise to these people. Friends, you will have this one, sir, they have a provision of appellate procedures. Why there is a procedure called revision? If I have to take the procedure of appellate procedures, it takes too much of time, so that the assessee, if he finds that these are the mistakes or which has been patently done by the assessing officer, I can straight away cut short that appellate procedures, waive that appellate procedures, and go before the Commissioner of Income Tax under section 264 of the Income Tax Act. Next slide. Next slide, ma. You may ask a question whether there is any provision for second time revision under 264. No, it is not possible. The assessee will be given an opportunity of being here. A date will be fixed up. Even though there is a written submissions are all given, there will be a personal hearing for the assessee. The biggest problem what we find under 264 is that if the 264 is taken by the assessee after waiving the appellate procedures but not taking the appellate procedures, if the 264 is rejected by the Commissioner of Income Tax, there is no appeal mechanism. I have to file only a writ petition before the Honorable High Court under Article 226 of. So most of the time the council will advise, rather than taking up 264, to take up the longer route of appellate procedures. Sometimes if the assessee finds that this is straight away case that there will be a definitely which is prejudicial to the assessee, he can take the route of 264. The problem is the appellate mechanism, you don't have an appeal provision, because if you take up all other cases, you have an appellate mechanism to tribunal, then to High Court, 260A, everything to Supreme Court. But here, if you have taken a short route under section 264, you don't have an appellate mechanism. It is only by way of a writ under Article 220. Okay. Now we will go to the next slide. What are the orders which cannot be revised by the CIT? A CIT cannot revise an order till the time within which the appeal may be made before CITA or the tribunal expires. So what happens is, I stated that the CIT can take 264, but he has to wait because the assessee is having a time limit, either to take the appellate provision fora or the revisional fora. He has to decide it. Till the time limit is not expired, you cannot revise the order under section 264. But they give a rider also. If, however, the right of appeal is waived by the assessee says, sir, I don't want a right of appeal, I waive that, I am not filing an appeal against that one. The time limit has not already expired. The assessment order is passed, 30 days has not over. Given that period of time, the assessee, if he waives the right of appeal, he can go before the commissioner for revision under section 264, and the CIT may revise the order even before the time for appeal is expired. Then subsection. Where the order has been made a subject matter of an appeal before the CITA or the tribunal, whether by the assessee or by the department, the revisional power under section 264 comes to an end, because assessee cannot take, sir, I will file an appeal before the first appellate authority. A revision under section 2, you cannot choose. The assessee has to choose either the appellate forum or the revisional forum, and he cannot avail both the forum with reference to the very same order, that is the assessment order. So one choice, 264, or you go by under 246 by an appellate procedures. Next slide. Very crucial class. the CIT does not have the power to revise an order under section 264 if the order has been made subject to an appeal to the tribunal. Even the relief claimed in the revision is different from the relief claimed in appeal before the tribunal, irrespective of the fact whether it is by the assessee or by the department. Suppose if the assessee chooses an appellate mechanism provision that he goes before the first appellate authority or to the tribunal, can the CIT can take a revision under section 264? It is not possible, because once, if that is the subject matter of appeal of the very same order, even though that the relief claimed in the revision and the relief claimed in the appeal is totally different, even then also the commissioner cannot revise the order, nor the assessee can prefer under section 264, which is decided by the Supreme Court in the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited versus CIT, reported in 243 ITR 808. Now, next we will say the time limit. What is the time limit for me to pass the order? It is just think 1 year. 1 year from the date of the original order is my time limit for a revision under section 264. Suppose if there is a delay in filing the revision petition under section 264, the CIT may condone the delay if he is satisfied that the assessee was prevented by sufficient cause for making an application within the specified period. So therefore, the CIT can condone the delay and accept it. Otherwise, the time limit is 1 year from the date of the original order. Next slide. The CIT has to pass an order within a period of 1 year from the end of the financial year in which the application is made. So your time limit is also from the end of the financial year. I specify the word once again, from the end of the financial year in which the application made. From that date, within a period of 1 year, I have to pass the order under section 264. This time limit shall not apply in the case of order to giving effect to any finding or directions of the tribunal or High Court or Supreme Court. So if suppose if the High Court passes an order or the Supreme Court passes an order, or there are certain time limits by way of a stay which is given by the court, or there is a change of incumbent under section 129 of the Income Tax Act, in those periods all be excluded and the time limit will be extended, and these periods will be excluded for the purpose of calculation of time limit, which you need not break your head. You can just think of that 1 year is the time limit from the end of the financial year in which the application is made under section 264. Now we have covered the subject, rectification, then 264 revisional powers. Now we come to the main subject, revision under section 263 of the Income Tax Act. Friends, I just want you to please concentrate on the revision under section 263. As we said, I said in the earlier slides, the remedy of the department, either I can 154, revision under section, reopening of assessment under section 147, then I had a revision under section 263. The CIT can exercise the powers of revising an order under section 263 if the following conditions are fulfilled. Just think of this chart, that is sufficient. The order which is passed, order means it should be only an assessment order. It should be erroneous as well as prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. These are all revisional powers under section 263, which should be in favor of the department. By mistake, if the assessing officer has not passed the order in a proper manner, what is the course of the provision for the department. You don't have a mechanism of appeal provision because I am not an aggrieved person on that. So for that aggrieved, the Act contemplates you have a provision of 263 to revision that order. The vision of that assessing authority is not perfect. Therefore, you can do under 263. So the assessment order should be erroneous, and so far as it is prejudicial to the revenue, the revision has to be done within 2 years from the end of the financial year in which the order is passed. Opportunity of should be given to the assessee, and all the records should be available before the CIT. CIT means Commissioner of Income Tax. Next slide. So in 263, the Commissioner may call for and examine the records of any proceedings under this Act. Here the word records is very, very important. Any proceedings under this Act, the assessment order, if he considers that any order passed therein by the assessing officer, so it should be an order passed by the assessing officer, is erroneous, insofar as it is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, so it should be interest of the revenue. It is not interest of the assessee. It is to be prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. He may, after giving the assessee an opportunity of being heard and after making or causing to be made such inquiry as he deems necessary, pass such order, including an order enhancing or modifying the assessment or cancelling the assessment and directing a fresh assessment. So he can do 3 things: enhancing or modifying the assessment, or he can cancel the assessment and direct the assessing officer to do a fresh assessment. When this has to be done, when it is permissible. The next slide explains that when 263 is not permissible, where an order referred to in this subsection and passed by the AO, AO means assessing officer, had been the subject matter of an appeal. Suppose if the order is passed by the assessing authority, aggrieved by that, if the assessee has filed an appeal before the first appellate authority, then the power for revision under 263 cannot be done, subject to what it says. The power of the CIT under this subsection shall extend to such matter has not been considered and decided in such appeal. Suppose if I have aggrieved by an addition of A, B, if I go and appeal only in respect of A, the B addition is, I have not, even though I am an aggrieved person, I have not gone. In that B addition, the Commissioner can take 263 because that was not a subject matter on appeal before the first appellate authority. Only the A matter is the subject matter before the first appellate authority, which will be considered and decided in appeal. Therefore, I can rectify, I can make a revision under section 263 in respect of the addition which is not a subject matter before the first appellate authority. Next slide. I will explain you with these examples. You may find it very difficult. I can give you an example in the subsequent slides. So 2 things very important for the applicability of the 3 things is very important for 263. Order must be passed by the assessing authority. Yes, sir, it is passed by the assessing authority. Is the order is erroneous? Yes, sir, there is in fact, it is an erroneous order. Whether the order is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue? Yes, it is interest of the revenue is affected. Then if all these conditions are satisfied, definitely there lies 263 under the Income Tax Act. Next slide, which is the crucial issue. We say twin conditions. What is that? Erroneous, insofar as it is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. If the assessing officer's order is erroneous, but not prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. It is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, but not an erroneous order. Can I take 263 a revisional power? No. The Supreme Court said it is not possible. It is reported case is Malabar Industrial Company Limited, 243 ITR 83. It says that you have to satisfy both the conditions under section 263, both erroneous as well as prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. Sir, these two conditions, how to be satisfied, sir? I will take you with examples, because one order may be an erroneous order, but it will not be prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. Sometimes it may be prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, but it may not be an erroneous order passed by the assessing authority, because he would have taken a view to pass such order. In such a situation, 263 is not possible. That's why the Supreme Court said you have to satisfy both the conditions simultaneously. Both the orders should be erroneous as well as prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. So think of this twin condition, then only 263 will lie. Otherwise, 263 will not lie. Now go to the next slide. You have gone through a word called, when I read this section, record. What is this record? I humbly request all the people to go through the judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of Sri Manjunatheshwari Packing Products Limited, 231 ITR 53. I will repeat it, 231 ITR 53. What is the problem is? What is this record? Why I stress the word as record? Suppose for an example, an assessing authority has passed an order, or he is about to pass an order. During the scrutiny proceedings, he finds that the assessee has constructed a building. The construction of the building, the cost declared by the assessee is 50,000, but the assessee officer finds that, sir, it cannot be 50,000, it should be much more than 50,000. I will refer the matter to the valuation officer. We have a department valuation officer. I will refer him. He will inspect your building and find out what is the real cost of construction of the building. If there is going to be more than that, the difference of that amount will be added in the assessment, and I will pass the assessment order. For all passing the assessment order, you have a time limit. If the assessing authority refers the matter to the valuation officer under section 142, the valuation officer takes his own sweet time to prepare the valuation report and sends the valuation report subsequent to the assessment order passed by the assessing authority. In such a situation, the assessing authority cannot wait for that time. So, Prithvi, is there any problem?
Sir, no, sir. 1 minute, I'll just check with Jayalakshmi.
No, just 1 second. I think it just got rebooted.
No problem, no problem, no problem.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now in this present situation, what happens is the valuation officer will give his valuation report after the passing of the assessment order. So the assessing officer will pass an assessment order, and he will also put a note that this matter is subject to revision under section 263. So the report comes after the assessment order, which is also forming part of the record. Therefore, the record shall include and shall be deemed always to include all records relating to any proceeding under this act available at the time of examination by the commissioner. So just minimize the slide so that it will be easy. They can read the full provision. if they cannot read it, you can just read it subsequently. I am just passing out this PPT also. That will not be a problem. So, the revision power of the commissioner at that point of time, if the record is available, that itself is sufficient. Therefore, I humbly request all the people to go through the judgment of 231 ITR 53 in the case of CIT versus Sri Manjunath Ishwari Packing Products Limited by the Supreme Court. Now we will go to the next slide. What is erroneous or prejudicial to the interest of revenue? An assessment order need not be very detailed about the inquiry made. An order cannot be held as erroneous or one passed without application of mind merely because the same is not an elaborate order. This is what the Bombay High Court has said. See, the assessing authority has made an inquiry. Whether he has to incorporate all these inquiry in his assessment order? Need not. Therefore, if the commissioner comes to seeing the record, no, the assessing authority has not gone through the detailed inquiry and all those things. He has just passed a cryptic order. Therefore, it is erroneous order as well as prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. Therefore, I take up under section 263. It is not possible. That's what the Bombay High Court has said in 323 ITR 632. It has to be examined whether the assessing officer has conducted an inquiry in completing the assessment. There is a difference between lack of inquiry and inadequate inquiry. If there is any inquiry, even if inadequate, the same would not give an occasion to invoke section 263. That is what the Delhi High Court reported in 289 Taxman 436. There is, see, because there are creditors, the assessee would have given the details of the creditors, the assessing officer would have not verified, he would have accepted some as he would have made an inquiry. There may be a lack of inquiry, there may be an inadequate inquiry also. Whether in those situations 263 is possible, these issues are still testable issues, depends upon the facts of cases which has to be tested by the each and every court. It depends upon the each and every facts of that case. Next slide. But the Karnataka High Court took an opposite view. In 341 ITR 293, where it was held that every finding and conclusion of the AO has to be necessarily to be noted in the order and supported by reasons, however brief it may be, in the absence of which it is an erroneous order. So therefore, which is an erroneous order? Which is, in fact, we can say that when there is any loss of revenue, you can say that it is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. How to find out whether it is an erroneous order? Non-application of a mind, non-application of a material, or what is that? So they stated that a non-application of mind to a relevant material or an incorrect assumptions of facts or an incorrect application of law will satisfy the requirement that the order is being erroneous, which is what decided in the case of CIT versus Jawahar Bhattacharya ji, 341 ITR 434, full bench. 341 ITR 434. I have stated that.
Sir, 430?
434. 434. I'll just spell it like this. 341 ITR 434. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Now, you have come to a conclusion that the order is erroneous. Sometimes an order may not be prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. You cannot say that every loss of an order or loss of making an addition is always a prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. No. That is also mentioned by the Honorable Madras High Court in the case of CIT versus GR Tangamaligai, reported in 259 ITR 129 of the Madras High Court in the case of GR Tangamaligai. After all these confusions, whether it is erroneous or prejudicial, the Act was amended in such a situation that what are all the erroneous orders, what are all the prejudicial to the interest of revenue, which we can find it in the next slide. What constitutes that the order passed by the AO is erroneous? For invoking section 263, the CIT has to prove that the order is erroneous on the basis that he has not followed an order of the Supreme Court judgment, or the assessing authority has not followed a retrospective amendment, or an evidence in this position that the assessee has understated the income. The assessing authority is having an evidence to that the assessee has understated the income, even that he has not taken into account, or an evidence in this position that the assessee has claimed excessive loss, deduction and relief. The first word status understating the income. Here, excessive loss, deduction and relief is claimed by the assessee. If those things are there, definitely you can come to a conclusion that the order is erroneous. Therefore, the commissioner and the revisional authority can take 263. Now, what is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue? Income has been underassessed, loss has been overassessed, income has been assessed at a lower rate, excessive loss, excessive deduction, allowance and reliefs have been allowed to the assessee. In those cases, you can straight away come to a conclusion that the interest of the revenue is being affected. Therefore, insofar as it is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. Now we will come to the conclusion. What is the time limit for passing this order? The time limit, next slide, will contemplate the time limit to pass the order is that you have 2 years. In 264, you had 1 year, but for 263, you have 2 years from the end of the financial year in which the order has to be revised. Then they give the limitation part, which is also we have gone through what we have seen in 264. The same limitation provisions will also applicable here also in 263. So you can think very simple that the authority is having a time limit of 2 years from the end of the financial year which the order is passed by the assessing authority. Now, the subsequent slide, whether if there is two views, whether 263 is possible, because the assessing authority may have taken one view and the revision authority says that no, your view is not right. In such a situations, the order cannot be for revision under section 263 because every loss of revenue consequential to the order of the AO come under the jurisdiction of the commissioner under section 263. For example, where the AO has adopted one of the possible view, that cannot be revised. Therefore, because one view is the assessing authority's view and one view is the order of the commissioner of income tax. Therefore, if there is going to be two views as possible, then in such a situation, 263 is not permissible. That is what the Supreme Court has held in the case of Max India 295 ITR 282. 295 ITR 282 Supreme Court. So, Malabar Industries judgment as well as the Max India judgment is always in favor of the assessee. The Supreme Court has said that twin condition has to be followed, which is contemplated in the Malabar Industries case. And if there are two views, that is not possible, which is stated in Max India. Now we will come to the main crux. Sir, you have spoken about assessment order for revision. Yes. Whether reassessment is also possible under section 263. Yes. An assessment includes reassessment also. Therefore, an assessment order can also be revised. A reassessment order also can be revised. But there are certain things which you have to keep in mind, which I'm going to take you in the next slides on the concept of merger theory. Go to the next slide. Doctrine of merger. In case where the CITA, that is the first appellate authority, because the assessee has filed an appeal before the first appellate authority, has passed an order confirming the order of assessment. One view is that revising the order is not permissible since the same has merged with the appellate order, even in case where the appellate order merely confirms the assessment order. Sir, it is totally confusing, sir. Please kindly explain this. I will also have two examples which I will explain it in the example 1 and example 2. Just think of this one. If the assessee prefers an appeal before the first appellate authority, the first appellate authority confirms the order. Even then, whether a revisional powers is there or not is a very big subject matter, because the assessment order merges with the appellate order. Whether the commissioner can revise the order of the CIT appeal is a very big question, which is also decided under 23 ITR 412 in the case of CIT versus Tejaji. But subsequently, I will give you an example that where I can revise the order. The matter has been retrospectively superseded by, why I say that one, we brought, before the explanation was brought in, this was the position, because of the merger theory, we could not do it. But subsequently, there was an explanation to 1C, which stated that even then the CIT is having a powers to revise the order which was not considered and decided in appellate authority. That is what the judgment in 231 ITR 50 contemplates. Next slide, we will talk about partial merger. I will explain, just listen. In this case, the ITO allowed deduction under section 35B. Forget about the section, what is the 35B or anything, on an amount lower than that claimed by the assessee. On appeal, the issue was decided by the Commissioner Appeals against the assessee. So he has confirmed the order of the assessing authority. Thereafter, the CIT invoked section 263 and set aside the assessment order on the ground that the deduction was allowed without going into the details. The assessee argued that 263 could not be in court because my appeal was the subject matter before the CIT appeals, which has merged with the order of the CIT appeals. But the High Court held that no, insofar as it pertained to the amount allowed by the assessing of authority, was not the subject matter before the first appellate authority. Hence, therefore, the doctrine of merger will not apply in this case. Sir, it is still confusing. What is that merger theory? What is the subject matter of appeal? What is this? You just go through the judgment 282 ITR 457. I have two examples. I will explain you how the merger theory will apply. Go to the next slide. Suppose if the assessing authority passes an order, make an addition X. Okay, remember he makes an addition X. Then an addition Y. This addition is a part addition. Then the assessee prefers an appeal in respect of the addition X as well as in respect of the Y. In Y means there are two parts. The total claim is 70,000. 50,000 is allowed. For 50,000, I am not an aggrieved person. I am not an aggrieved person because the assessing authority has already allowed. But to the extent of 20,000, it is disallowed. To that extent, I am aggrieved. That is with reference to addition made under Y. Now, the CITA passes the order in with reference to the X addition. He says that yes, that addition is not sustainable. I give you full relief. But he confirms the addition Y of rupees 20,000. So 20,000 addition is sustained. In such a situation, whether CIT can revise the addition under section for the addition Y under section 263, yes, it is possible, because the merger theory will contemplate only a partial merger, because the allowed portion of that 50,000 is not a subject matter before the first appellate authority. Therefore, a revisionary powers under section 263 is possible for the commissioner to invoke under section 263 of the Income Tax Act. If you still have a doubt, at the time of question and answer, I will explain it. With reference to next example 2. You said, next slide, ma. There are assessment order as well as reassessment order. In this case, if the AO pass an order making an addition A, B, C and D. Now think 4 additions are made by the assessing authority A, B, C and D. Then the assessee prefers an appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax appeals in respect of the addition A, B, C. So A, B, C is a subject matter of appeal. Now he has not preferred an appeal against D, right? Okay. After that, the commissioner appeals passes an order. Now there is a reopening of an assessment within 4 years. Subsequently, the assessing authority makes in the reassessment 3 additions called E, F, G. Now the question is, the assessing authority has passed the revisional order. The assessing authority has passed the reassessment order. First addition A, B, C, D, on which D he has not preferred an appeal. A, B, C he has preferred an appeal before the first appellate authority. Let us not worry about what has happened to that one. Subsequently, there is a revision, there is a reopening of assessment. The assessing authority passes an order EFG addition. Now, whether the CIT can revise the addition D after the reassessment order, the answer is no, because the original assessment order was passed prior to the date. Your time limit of 263 is 2 years from the date of the original order. Therefore, by the concept of merger theory, the commissioner will not get an extended time limit to revise an addition for the respect of addition made under section D after passing of the reassessment order is not possible. If he wants to revise under section 263, he can revise only with reference to the addition made in the reassessment E, F and G, and not with reference to the revision made in the original assessment order, because the time limit would have got expired. This is in example 2. Then we will come to the next slide. In 263 is called as a show cause notice. Suppose I take, the commissioner takes and issues a show cause notice under section 263 for the revisional powers for one issue, and subsequently he finds that there is one other issue which is also a failure, which is erroneous as well as prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. Then whether a revision notice under section 263 can be taken up? Yes, if he gives, the commissioner gives an opportunity to the assessee, that is sufficient. So in the notice, even if it is for one issue, and subsequently he finds out on another issue, he can issue and he can inform that to the assessee that this issue is also for a revisional order and he should have given an opportunity to hear. That is what is this case, Rajdhani Powers Limited versus CIT in Delhi High Court. I am sorry I have not made the citation. You can even see Amitabh Bachchan's case, which is held by the Supreme Court recently, which is also directly on these issues. So we have covered the provision of revision under section 263, 264 and 154, 254. Now the last provision is review. Next slide. Under the Income Tax Act, you will never find a word as review. You can find rectification, revision, but a review is not possible. What is this review? An authority who has taken a view, he is being asked to review that. That is the meaning of review. If a judgment is passed by a judge, a review is possible even under the Income Tax Act. The very same judge and the same court will reconsider, relook, re-examine and review that order and pass an order which may be confirming the same or diagonally opposite to that judgment what we have taken up in the previous case. This is as has happened in my own case, in which in the case of B. Jayalakshmi versus Commissioner of Income Tax, in which the Honorable Justice Chitra Venkatraman and Sivagyanam, Justice Sivagyanam was sitting at the bench, they passed an order in favor of the revenue. Subsequently, the assessee filed a review petition. I objected the review is not available, but the court subsequently, as the Supreme Court has held that review is possible even under the income tax matters. Therefore, they took into that, and the Honorable Justice Sivagyanam subsequently with another judge, because since the Honorable Justice Chitra Venkatraman has retired, reviewed the order and felt that that original order passed by this Honorable Court is not correct, and they took an opposite view and passed an order in favor of the assessee. Review is contemplated only under section 114 of CPC. There is no word under the Income Tax Act. With this view, I conclude the rectify, revision and review. Thank you.
So thank you very much, sir. Again, I think this was again one of a very, very informative session for all of us, and we got to understand the concept of rectify, review and revision. So,
you can ask Jayalakshmi to close the slide so that we can have the full view of the members. And
yes, sir. She is already
questions they can ask.
So, dear participants, you can raise your hands in the app, or you can just drop me a message. This is an interactive session, so for any doubts or clarification, feel free to ask, sir. We can take up question answers for the next few minutes, and then we can clarify our doubts. So, I think first question Jayalakshmi itself wants to ask. I'll unmute. Yes, Jayalakshmi.
Sir,
yeah, please.
Sir, there's a small doubt.
Yes.
Like in case of rectification,
Hmm.
you had said if the more or less the examples given were very factual,
Yes.
and therefore there is if there is an issue in the matter of facts or something that they come to know post passing of the order, they can go back and pass a rectification order.
Yes.
But the difference between revision and review, is there any difference? Is there any blatant blanket difference in that regard? Like, you know, if
See, ma'am, there is a difference between rectification is a separate thing. If there is a mistake of
yes,
an arithmetical mistakes or an addition made, there is an addition
yes,
for subtraction and all those things, rectification is possible.
yes,
But for to change a view or any other thing, that is only revisionally power is possible.
okay,
Review is not at all possible, neither by the authorities under section 116 of the income tax authorities. Even tribunal doesn't have a power to review its own order. It can be only by way of
இந்த question இருக்கு. இது வந்து
Appeal.
Okay, are you satisfied or you want further explanation on this?
No. So my doubt is, so revision is something like a review in the indirect tax perspective or in the other perspective. Where,
Exactly. In fact, we will not call it as a review. Review means the same person viewing it once again.
oh, okay.
Revision means a mistake done by the subordinate is corrected by the appellate authority or a revisional authority.
Okay.
Okay? Yes.
Yes. I mean, I just have an example.
Yes.
That
Yes. Yes.
say,
please.
for example, I have given, detailed explanations and I have
Yes.
given detailed submissions, but
Yes.
they have not considered any of that and they have passed an order.
Hmm.
While maybe there is a Supreme Court case that's binding in my favor, but
Yes.
even that was not considered. So
Okay.
in that cases,
Hmm.
it'll classify more as a revision, worthy of revision,
Exactly.
right?
But one thing is that I'll tell you. If you are taking the provision of 264, that because it is prejudicial to the interest of the assessee, you
Okay.
take up a 264 means you waive the provisions of appellate authority provisions. That you cut short your appeal provisions and you take the revisional provisions, you can succeed there also. So,
But can I go on appeal against the revision order?
No.
I'll tell you one thing. Against a 263 order, an appeal provision is available. I have a power before the income tax appellate tribunal.
Okay.
But for 264, it is not possible.
Oh.
See, because if it is prejudicial to the assessee, you have two options. One, the appellate forum or the revisional authority.
Okay.
Okay, you have waived the power of the appeal provision. Then if you come to 264, you don't have an appeal mechanism, you have only a writ under Article 226.
Okay.
But for a revision under Section 263, if I am aggrieved against that, the assessee can file an appeal against that order before the income tax appellate tribunal.
Okay. So for revision, there is a appellate procedure, but for review, there is no.
No. Revision under
Revision
Section
under
263 is an appeal provision.
Okay.
Revision under Section 264,
there is no. Okay.
Never ever have a called as review. There is no word called review under the Income Tax Act.
Yes. Sorry, sir.
Right, fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Sir, just to clarify further on this point,
Yes.
if the department under Section 263 files for a revision,
Yes.
but it is not accepted, whether the department can go on appeal against that order.
No.
See, no. You will not go and appeal again because how is it possible? If you have, the commissioner has taken under Section 263.
Yes, sir.
The order is erroneous as well as prejudicial to the interest of the revenue.
Yes, sir.
Then the commissioner, the assessee explains that this is not an erroneous order, this is not a prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, this is my explanation. Commissioner accepts it. That's all.
That's all.
There ends the matter. The order passed by the assessing authority becomes final.
Fine.
Okay, the department will not be an aggrieved person against that to file an appeal. How I am aggrieved against that? Because the commissioner is the authority to sanction for appeal. When he himself has accepted it, how can he be the aggrieved person to file an appeal before the tribunal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, clarified?
Yes, sir. Clint also has a doubt. Clint. Hi, Clint.
Yes, good morning, Clint. Tell me.
Sir, one small doubt. Since you have touched on assessment,
Okay.
what happened to ex parte assessment, sir?
See, ex parte assessment is under Section 144.
Correct.
I have two options. Sometimes the assessee may take up by 264, but mostly they will not take up by 264 because it is not prejudicial to the assessee or something like that. So most of the time they will take the appellate provision under Section 246.
Correct.
You can't go by a rectification or something like that. You cannot amend an order under Section C because there is a difference between a revisional authority's order and a rectification order. Assessing authority will not rectify he can rectify the arithmetical mistakes and other things. He cannot rectify the addition made, whether it is correct addition or a wrong addition, that cannot be done that amendment cannot be done. Otherwise, then every assessing authority will rectify his own order then the purpose of applied provision itself will become redundant.
No, sir, one small doubt. In that case, can I go for an appeal?
Yes, you have to go only by way of appeal. If an order is ex parte order, go by way of an appeal. You have an appeal remedy. Even if the time limit is expired, you can file a condoned delay before the first appellate authority, explain the reason of the sufficient cause, your appeal will be admitted. Definitely, you can file an appeal before the first appellate authority.
Okay.
Are you satisfied?
Yes, sir. But ex parte assessment,
Hmm.
it cannot be by any other authority than the higher officials. No, if I am right, it should be not by joint commissioner or something. It should be principal commissioner. No.
No, that's why I say that the first appellate authority means only the commissioner appeals or the principal commissioner. They are in the same
Correct.
rank only. Same rank only. So first appellate authority is the authority to decide that.
Okay.
And I will tell you one thing, friends. If an appeal filed before the first appellate authority, Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, there are divergent views. To my view, an assessee will not have a right to withdraw an appeal which is not in the Act. If you file an appeal before the tribunal, you have a power to withdraw. If you file an appeal before the Honorable High Court, you have a power to withdraw. But before the first appellate authority, if an appeal is filed, you don't have a power to withdraw the appeal because the first appellate authority is having a power to enhance the assessment. No other authority will enhance the assessment. Tribunal will not have the powers of enhancement. The High Court cannot have the powers of enhancement because whenever I file an appeal, I can withdraw the appeal because why I should invite myself a problem that the liability to increase. So all other authorities, whenever I file an appeal, I have the power to withdraw the appeal. Only when I file an appeal before the first appellate authority, that the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, I don't have a power to withdraw the appeal because the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals has the powers to enhance my assessment. This is my view, but there are the divergent views taken by the assessee sides.
Sir, so if the High Court enhance the appeal,
High Court cannot enhance the appeal. They will only decide the substantial question of law.
no, sir. For example,
For an example, if your addition is 50 rupees, first appellate authority dismiss, second appellate authority dismiss, you go to the High Court. They will decide the substantial question of law whether this 50 rupees can be sustained or not. They cannot say that one, no, another 20 rupees there is an addition, I will make an addition. High Court cannot do it. Tribunal cannot do it. It is only the first appellate authority who will have a power to enhance the assessment, not by any other authority. That's why the right of withdrawal of appeal is given to tribunals as well as before the High Court or to the Supreme Court. But it is the right of appeal is not given in the statute before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeal. See, because right of appeal is not automatic. It is conferred by the statute in the Income Tax Act. If you are filing an appeal before the first appellate authority, I should be an aggrieved person of that order. If you are not an aggrieved person of that order, how can you file an appeal? The statute never contemplates you to do that. So you should be an aggrieved person. Otherwise, you cannot file an appeal. This is what up to the stage of the first appellate authority. After the tribunal, from the first appellate authority, any order is stated before the tribunal. Therefore, you can file any order there itself.
thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Any other